At this point, I would like to introduce Mark MacDonald, our candidate and future MPP. So,
thank you very much for the kind words and the warm welcome. And there's no way that I'm going to try and pronounce Mr. Chiarelli's name in Italian. It just won't happen. It just will not happen. First off, I want to thank each and every person for coming out tonight. It is a very special night. My campaign team has been focused. First of all, we were focused on the nomination. And then now we're focused on the office opening. The writ drops, the election officially starts this Wednesday, and then focusing on the actual election itself. But when the team was together and we were talking about who we wanted to have come down for the official office opening, I mean, I've talked often about this election, about where Ontario is and where the rest of the world is in terms of the overall economy. And what's helped Ontario is the way that the past Liberal government has handled the global economic crisis. And one of those things, leading the way, is infrastructure. And you cannot go anywhere in this riding from one end, and the reason I know is because I've been from one end to the other, a lot of times with a lot of help. You cannot go from one end of the riding to the other without seeing the fingerprints of our MPP, Jim Barnell, on the Ontario Liberal government, and with the deepest respect and regard for our infrastructure minister, Mr. Bob Chiarelli, first of all.
yes!
I was asked to say a few words, or going to say a few words tonight. Somebody asked me, am I going to write out a script? It's very easy for me. And it's becoming easier as the campaign rolls along, because I think as we get closer to the actual election itself, people are realizing that the other side, there's no alternative. I mean, Ontario is here. When you look at the overall economy, the education, environment, and healthcare, Ontario is here. And Canada, the rest of the world is down here. Ontario is the economic engine that drives Canada. And we're at the very center of it. And each and every one of us, and make no mistake about it, because we've had campaign meetings in here and I've told everybody, I'm just a candidate. Each and every one of us is going to play an important role in this election. This election is not about me or about what I can do. It's about what we can do together, because each and every one of us that's what it's going to take to win this election, to encourage your friends and your neighbors, and I do it at every point that I can. I have a very, very short political history, but I encourage people to get involved politically, because without getting involved, we're going to see massive cuts to our education and our healthcare system. And that's the reason that I'm fighting for Stormont, Dundas, and South Glengarry. We're going to be cutting the ribbon at the back door in a few minutes, and it's a symbolic ribbon. And before we get to that, I just want to tell a quick story about it. It's the tie that I wore the night of the nomination meeting. I had a nice, clean, crisp tie that I wore the night of the nomination meeting. But I had to. I'm not only a father, a very proud father of 2 children. I'm a very proud grandfather. And I was out with my granddaughter one day, and I had to have something to clean her up, and I had to use my red tie. And the red tie got ruined, but I said to myself, that's going to serve another purpose, and it's going to serve as the ribbon cutting ceremony in a few minutes at the back door. And at this time, I'd like to introduce our guest of honor, Mr. Bob Chiarelli. Now, I've met Bob on a few occasions. He was kind enough to come down to the Parkway there just not all that long ago, I think before maybe 6 months or so ago. He is the Minister of Infrastructure. He has served as an MPP for 10 years, from 87 to 97 or somewhere in there, served as the mayor of the amalgamated city of Ottawa. And he won a by-election just in March of last year. And that, for anybody that was paying attention to politics at the time, sent a very, very strong message. So at this time, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Bob Chiarelli.
Thank you very much, Mark. And I have to tell you, this is my 10th campaign, believe it or not. And so I've been to a lot of campaign openings. And I know that there's enough energy just in this room tonight to win this election for you. But I've managed a few election campaigns before I became a candidate. 4 federal election campaigns for Lloyd Francis. And I can tell when I walked into the opening of the campaign whether it was a winning election or a losing election. He fought 9, I think he lost 5 and won 4. And I can tell you, this is a winning campaign, just by walking in. Jim Brownell said it. He spoke about the economy and what's happened in this riding. You spoke about this riding, the economy for Ontario, comparing it to Canada and the rest of the world. We are leading the world in terms of economic recovery coming out of this recession. The worst recession since the Great Depression. Just want to give you a few numbers, and it's very, very important. We have had 120% job recovery coming out of the recession. That means we've replaced numerically 100% of the jobs that we lost, plus we've created another 20% as well on top of that. So it's very, very important to recognize what we've done and compare it to other jurisdictions. 120% compares to the United States, which has had 22% job recovery coming out of the recession, or the United Kingdom, which has had 62% job recovery coming out of the recession. In 2010, last year, we created in Ontario 210,000 jobs. That's about 85% full-time jobs. That is more than the rest of Canada combined, just coming out of Ontario. That's a spectacular performance. In June of this year, we created 40,000 jobs in Ontario, most of them full-time jobs. That's more than the rest of Canada and the United States combined in the month of June. We have had 8 quarters of economic growth. Our economic growth is at about 3.3, 3.4%. That's among the best in the world. Not the best in Canada, the best in the world. And there are other jurisdictions who are looking at Ontario with envy. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Does that happen by accident? No, it does not happen by accident. I'm going to tell you why it happened. It happened for 3 reasons. Number 1, our tax policy. We reduced corporate income tax by 28%. We decreased corporate income tax by 28%. We decreased small business tax by 18%. We eliminated the capital tax, and we brought in the HST, which has been a boon for business, particularly small business in Ontario. We cut personal income tax by $10 billion last year, and it's in the base. And that's being implemented over 3 years. So income tax policy. Secondly, green energy policy. Green energy manufacturing has created approximately 15,000 jobs in Ontario. And lastly, I want to talk about infrastructure. Infrastructure has been one of the drivers of economic recovery in Canada, but particularly here in Ontario. The worst recession since the Great Depression, virtually every advanced economy in the world agreed, there was a consensus, that we had to do stimulus investment, stimulus funding, to restore jobs and restore the economies across the world. In Canada, that was reflected in the Canada Provincial Infrastructure Program. In Ontario, Canada Ontario Infrastructure Program. Now that program has been the most successful and has generated the best results, the most successful infrastructure program in the history of the country. In Ontario, that means $27 billion of investment over between 2.5 and 3 years. It means creating 300,000 jobs. It means over 10,000 projects across Ontario. But let's talk about what it means for this area, for this riding. 36 projects worth $33 million in provincial investment, $92 million if you include local and federal, and 700 jobs. Now virtually every leader in the Western world, every leader in Canada supported stimulus funding. They may have disagreed on the amount or the nature of the program, but every single one supported infrastructure spending except one. That one person was Tim Hudak. Tim Hudak voted no for stimulus funding. He voted no for every project that took place in this community. He voted no to St. Lawrence College, $5 million investment by the province. He voted no to the Cornwall Multi-Sports Facility, which was $9 million by the province, $27 million budget. Hudak voted no. Steve Clark voted no. Randy Hilliard voted no. They all voted no. Tim Hudak, in fact, voted against 4,100 jobs in his own region of Niagara. So stimulus funding was a very, very important part of the economic success, and it was a very important part of the successful economy here. And I'll tell you, Jim Brownell worked very, very hard for that. And I sat in the legislature with John Cleary for 10 years. I sat in the legislature for the last 18 months with Jim. And I can tell you that they are of this community. And I can tell you Mark is of this community. He has the same connection to the community. He is going to deliver for this community. And he can speak to this community. He can come up here without notes and speak from his heart because he knows what's happening provincially, he understands the issues, and he understands his community. And that's why he's going to be the next MPP from this riding.
Yes.
And I have a message for Jim MacDonald. On his website, he says he will advocate for predictable municipal funding on his website. Well, he is absolutely on the wrong side of the page with his leader, Tim Hudak. Tim Hudak has said he will not continue uploading for municipalities. What that means is he's taking $9 million away from the city of Cornwall, just the city of Cornwall alone. And so he is going to have to answer for his leader on downloading and uploading. They downloaded to all the municipalities. I was mayor of the city of Ottawa at the time. It was a disaster for all the municipalities, and we're heading for the same type of disaster. I want to say just one other thing. I talked about the actual results, the jobs that were created. Those are not our numbers. Those are Stats Canada or the Conference Board. If you measure what we've done, it's been spectacular. If you measure what we've done in healthcare, we have the lowest wait times for surgery now compared to the longest when McGuinty took over. That's measured by the Canadian Medical Association. We've been measured internationally as having the best outcomes for cancer treatment in the world. So that's not us blowing our own hot air, that's other people measuring what we're doing. So by the measurements, you're absolutely right. The numbers show that we are tremendously successful under Dalton McGuinty. So I want to say that I'm going to try to come back again before Election Day and do whatever I can to support this riding because it's winnable, it will be won, and especially if everybody gets out and works. Now, I'm here in this shirt and casual pants. These are my work clothes. I canvassed 2 polls, and they picked me up on the last poll to bring me here tonight. And so we all have to get out and work it in the trenches, and we will give them hell and win. So let's go on.